Hey everybody, it's Mike from the Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Looking at a professional website without breaking your budget, Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today, 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show, get 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios, take your image to the next level. Also, time to give official shout out to our official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Mosensia. If you love fast-paced mysteries, you'll love Missing by Mia Mosensia, available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing is fast-paced and intriguing with an unforgettable twist. Takes place in 4 countries, 2 strangers, 1 target, where truth is an illusion and those you love will be the first to go missing. It's available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing by Mia Mosensia has garnered great reviews, and Eve 11 endorsed by Howard celebrities, including Joanna Cassidy, Forbes Riley, and many others. So grab your copy today for Goes Missing by Mia Mosensia, available on Amazon. Also, check out the Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com on over 30 podcast platforms, including Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Also, Anchor FM, iTunes, Google Play, Amazon, Audible, Apple Music, and more. Take the Mike Wagner Show with you on any mobile device. Subscribe to the Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel. Follow the Mike Wagner Show on Instagram and Twitter today. And for great gift ideas, go to Amazon.com and check out the Mike Wagner Show podcast. T-shirts, pop sockets, throw pillows, tote bags, hoodies. Makes great gifts 24/7. Amazon.com. Check out the Mike Wagner Show podcast. And for more great gift ideas, go to Amazon.com/Mia Mosensia. Check out his great books like Missing, Once, and Wrinkles. Also cool t-shirts, pop sockets, hoodies, and also phone cases and more. Amazon.com/Mia Mosensia. Check it out today. Also support the Mike Wagner Show on Anchor FM, PayPal, themikewagnershow.com. You can buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com at the Mike Wagner Show, and make sure you do so today. We're here with a terrific gentleman who's a dual board certified in obesity medicine and also an interventional radiologist from the Emory School of Medicine, involved in the study freezing the prostoversal trunk, and also, which is basically about losing weight. We'll talk about that. He spent 20 years analyzing diet, attrition, and why do diets always fail? We'll answer that question in just 1 minute. And why do we blame the patients for the failure? And this journey, by the way, has led him to perform the first human advanced interventional procedures to manage obesity, diabetes, and other metabolic conditions. He has a book called The Catching Point Transformation, which is a brand new approach to weight loss. And for those who are looking to lose weight, be healthy, and more, this is for you. And live, ladies and gentlemen, from the Plus Studios in beautiful downtown Atlanta, here he is, the amazing dual board certified doctor and the author of the amazing book, The Catching Point Transformation. Ladies and gentlemen, the multi-talented Dr. J. David Prologo. Dr. David, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, sir.
Well, it's great to have you on board as well, too. And you're a dual board certified in obesity medicine and also an interventional radiologist from the Emory School of Medicine. And you're involved in the study freezing the posterior versal trunk in 10 people. We'll talk about that. You spend 20 years analyzing the diet attrition and why do diets fail? And of course, why do they fail? Why do we blame the patients? And you also did your own performing a first human advanced interventional procedures, and you've been featured on numerous publications. You also have a book called The Catching Point Transformation, a brand new approach to weight loss. We'll talk about that. And before getting into all that, Dr. David, tell us how you first got started.
Okay. I first got started in this idea of weight loss a long time ago, and became an interventional radiologist sort of along the way. So my primary certification is in a field called interventional radiology. And so you go to medical school, you do training in radiology after that, and then you do what's called a fellowship, a final year where you learn how to do procedures with needles under image guidance. So that's my primary job, my day job. And then I have an obesity medicine certification because I had an interest in weight loss. More specifically, I had an interest in the failure to lose weight. It seemed striking to me that so many people were failing at this. And so ultimately, those two things came together in what we are calling now interventional obesity medicine, which is essentially some of these procedures to manage weight loss or to overcome people's failures when they try to lose weight. It's a lot, I guess. It's a lot to try to describe in a short time there.
And what first piqued your interest in weight loss?
So early on, I watched my mom and other relatives, and I noticed I had very close access to my mom, of course, and we were close as I was growing up. I could ask her questions. I was right there, and she was a strong woman. She raised three boys and had willpower, was smart, graduated with honors, all these things, and had a terrible time with this idea of weight loss. And so I was right there, so I could talk to her, I could ask her, I could say, what's happening now? What's happening on day three? What's happening? And at one point I said, I remember saying, if you had a gun to your head, and I wrote about this in the preface in the front of the book. If you had a gun to your head, could you stay on this diet? And I remember her saying, no, I can't do it. And I remember thinking, this is not something that can be overcome with the mind. There's something else going on here, right? This is more like if you went underwater and you tried to stay underwater, right? And I just said, look, just stay under there. But eventually, because you're not getting oxygen, eventually your body is going to overcome your desire to stay underwater and you're going to give up, right? And that's kind of what was going on with this weight loss. And I saw that firsthand and it was clear to me. So I ended up spending my life studying why that is. And now what I want to do, thanks to people like you, Mike, I want to get the word out there that it is like being underwater and you can't overcome it on your own. And you shouldn't feel bad about that. I mean, that's sort of the message one. We have a lot to say behind that, but that's kind of message one.
Mm-hmm. And the first question that comes out of people's minds, and especially with mine, is like, why do diets fail?
So diets, that's a great question. So diets fail because we are trying to do this thing that the body perceives as a starvation event, right? We at once on, say, some Monday coming up, we're going to start our diet is what we say. And we cut our calories and we start exercising on the same day. And the body perceives that because we're wired over hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. We're wired to survive, right? Just like the being underwater example. And when the body has an abrupt decrease in calories, a decrease in food, and an abrupt increase in energy, then from an evolutionary standpoint, our body says this is a famine, or we've got to move, And so what the body does then is automatically it starts to work against your efforts to lose weight. The body thinks it's surviving, right? It slows down metabolism. It stores everything that you eat, right? And it sends messages to your brain to seek food. Forget whatever else you're doing. We're going to starve if you don't eat, and so on, right? And that overwhelming signal from the body to survive is what causes people to ultimately give up this idea. It's just like giving up the idea of staying underwater. Importantly, though, those folks who are already lean, when they go on the same program, the same calorie restriction, the same exercise, they don't feel all of this, right? It's just the people who are trying to make a change that feel this overwhelming barrage. And you'll hear patients and people try to tell you that. They'll try to explain it in their own words. They'll say, I just can't do it. I must be my thyroid, or I must have slow metabolism or bad genetics, or they're trying to explain and understand something that they know is going on in their body. But there's a disconnect there, right? People sometimes will hear that and just say, you just don't want it bad enough, right? Which is silly. We wouldn't say that to somebody trying to stay underwater, right?
Mm-hmm. Right, exactly too. And what are some of the things that also trigger the whole thing, like with trying to lose weight, anxiety, and everything? What are some of the triggers that do that, or even like some of the foods, especially?
That will trigger this response. You mean it's really the absence of food that triggers this response. It's really the decrease in calories that we all embark on just overnight, right? Instead, people will always say, well, okay, if that's true, how should we do it, right? Well, the one thing you can do are some of these procedures that we've been talking about. That'll block that nervous signal. That'll block that hunger signal. That'll make it easier for you. But if you don't want to have a procedure, then you can also do it by focusing on other things, focusing on layering yourself in. And this is what we wrote about in the book. pick something, pick diet, pick exercise, and let's do that for 12 weeks. And then we'll slowly fade in the other one, right? If there was diet, then it'll be exercise and so on. Focus on recovery during this time, meaning focus on in between your exercise bouts when your body's trying to change. And these are the kinds of things you can do to overcome that signal, mitigate that signal, and be successful.
Mhm. And what are some of the things that trigger the nervousness as well, too? You talk about the nervousness where it says, like, a point where it becomes nervous, like, oh, feed me, feed me. What are some of the things that causes a trigger specifically
Yeah,
of
I
nervous?
got you. So, specifically, what happens in the body is the stomach is empty. Let's start there, right? So, because you're not eating as much as you normally do or at all, your stomach is empty. And there's a nerve that connects your stomach to your brain. It's called the vagus nerve. And that nerve starts firing, hey, your stomach is empty, and at first it's a little bit. And the longer you go on, the more this nerve fires to your brain and says, hey, 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 the stomach is empty. Whatever you're doing now is less important than getting food, because we're going to die. We're going to starve to death. But it's not just that. The body has a 1-2 punch for you, not just that. The stomach also, when it's empty, will release this hormone called ghrelin
Hmm.
into the bloodstream. And that hormone makes its way through the blood to your brain, sending the same exact message, right? So it's coming at you from all directions to get yourself something to eat. And it's something that stays high even after you lose weight. There are studies that have shown that after people lose weight, these hunger hormones are still high. The famous Biggest Loser TV show, we followed those participants out years afterwards, and their metabolisms were still slow, right? So
Wow.
if
Yes.
you don't do it the right way, then you're going to have to try and white knuckle and resist this kind of tension for the rest of your life.
Also, too, that I noticed as well, too, a couple instances you were talking about that with the Biggest Loser, where they were like this big, and then at the end of the show they were like this, and then maybe a year or two later, where it was, they're back to the same or bigger. I also noticed a couple of things like with Oprah Winfrey that she was doing her show and she was on a diet as well too, sponsored by I can't remember who it was, and then all of a sudden a year later she looked great, and then after she was done, all of a sudden she went back to herself, and also some others too, like say with Jenny Craig or similar weight loss. It's like they get on, they lose weight, and all of a sudden they get off. It's like they just balloon like crazy.
And we see this all the time. All the examples you mentioned, and all of that is out there in the population as well, because the treatment we have now, which is basically calorie restriction and exercise, is like pulling back a rubber band and just holding it there, right? And then just over time, you just kind of give up, and then boom, you rebound back. And that's because, like I said, the body is wired to survive, not to necessarily look good as we think it looks good in 2022. And so we have to address those things. What I saw when I was growing up, and what I still hear now when someone tries to say, "Hey, I can't keep this weight off," or "I can't lose this weight," is all this negative nonsense. Well, you've got to have some willpower, some persistence, or you have to, you got to want it. And there'll be some TikTok or T-shirt that says this kind of stuff. By the way, said TikTok or T-shirt is made by someone who has never done it, right? They've never lost that weight. They're just
Mhm.
already lean and they're maintaining it. And so that's a silly approach. And it's amazing to me that we've taken that approach for all of these years. We wouldn't do that for anything else. If
Mhm.
you came to me and said, I've got heart disease or I've got cancer, and I give you a treatment for it, and you say, look, I can't stay on this treatment. It's making me nauseated. It's making me tired. It's making me feel anxious. I would never come back at you and say, well, I guess you just don't want to be rid of your heart disease or your cancer. I guess you're just a lazy SOB. Now, I would
Mhm.
never say that, right? I would find a way for you to tolerate the treatment. And that's what we need to do in this setting as well. And it's not just this setting, by the way. The whole thing works for other conditions as well, including pain. And we can talk about that. But hopefully I answered your question. I feel like I
Yeah.
got off topic there.
No, that's actually pretty good too. And what are some other misconceptions of weight loss besides the ones you've mentioned? What are some other misconceptions?
So I think the biggest misconception that I see, it's really twofold. Thing one is you got yourself into this position, right? And most of the time, that's not true, right? Most of the time, people are genetically predisposed to this. But let's say it is true. Let's say you got yourself into this position because for whatever reason, the way you were brought up, you ate McDonald's and you didn't exercise.
We're guilty.
Again, I give you the cancer and heart disease example. If you got yourself into lung cancer because you smoked for 50 years, or into heart disease because you ate steaks all the time, I wouldn't shame you or say that you're a bad person or a sloth or a lazy person. It's only with that, right? So that's the primary misconception. And then the second one really is that, and this is the big one, right? If I can only say one thing on this entire show that people are going to listen to, this is the big one. People assume that if they were to switch places with someone who is overweight or obese, they assume that they would be able to lose that weight. That's the biggest misconception. I would be willing to bet that 95% of the so-called fitness community and the models that are out there and the exercise coaches and so on, I would be willing to bet that if they switched places, not only would they not be able to do it, but they would realize that there's so much more to it than they thought, that we'd have apologies out left and right. So I think that's the big one, in my opinion.
And of course, too, the association with not being able to lose weight is also the shame as well, too, that it appears that it's difficult to try to reverse it, but it can be done. So
it can be done. Most of the successes that we see are associated with certain things, right? First of all, we know that surgery works. And metabolic surgery has resulted in hundreds of thousands of pounds lost, even the reversal of things like high blood pressure and diabetes. We know that metabolic surgery works, which, by the way, to our earlier point, it's not a willpower implantation surgery, right? It's something that's being done to the body, not the mind, that results in success, right? So again, to my earlier point, that it's not really a mental thing that leads to success. So we know that surgery works, but most people are not candidates for metabolic surgery, bariatric surgery. Most people fall into this niche where they're overweight, but not quite enough to qualify for bariatric surgery. And we also know that we can have success in that population. And we've studied for years the things that correlate with success. And those are the things that are in the book, right? Instead of, because I've already got a job, I'm busy, instead of trying to generate a business or or sell a product, I wanted to write a book that said, look, here's what the research has shown us over the last 20 years that correlates with weight loss success. And then once the book is called The Catching Point, because there's a critical point beyond which it's no longer difficult, right? So we've been talking about two groups of people, the lean population that thinks that working out is fun and enjoyable, can't understand why anybody wouldn't want to do it, and the overweight population who have terrible time when they try to do it, right? But there's a critical point in here where this population, the so-called overweight population, can sort of join the other team, right? We can pull you across if you can get past that catching point, but you have to get to that catching point first. After that, it'll be easy for you as well. And so all those things, I just wanted to write them in a book and get them out there so that people knew and they didn't get distracted by these other sort of bells and whistles, people trying to sell products.
Could DNA also play a part of this too?
Sure. Your genetics are definitely predisposed to how tall you are, to what color your hair is, to what kind of body habitus you have, right? And that's sort of that's insult to injury at that point, because if you've got a genetic predisposition to fight, then now you've got not only the battle we talked about, but that battle times two. So for sure.
Okay. All right. We'll talk. Well, that's a really good point. We'll talk more about the book, The Catching Point Transformation. I'm really enjoying this. But first, you listen to the Mike Wagner Show at the MikeWagnerShow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at SonicWebStudios.com for all your needs. Looking at a professional website without breaking your budget, Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today, 1-800-303-3960. It's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support@SonicWebStudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show, get 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios, take your image to the next level. Also, time to give official shout out to our official sponsor of the Mike Widener Show, international warring author Mia Molson Zia. If you love fast-paced mysteries, you'll love Missing by Mia Molson Zia, available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing is fast-paced and intriguing with an unforgettable twist. Takes place in 4 countries, 2 strangers, 1 target, where truth is an illusion and those you love will be the first to go missing. It's available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing by Mia Molson Zia has garnered great reviews and even loved and endorsed by Howard celebrities, including Joanna Cassie, Forbes Riley, and many others. So grab your copy today for Girls Missing by Mia Molson Zia, available on Amazon. Also, check out the Mike Widener Show at the MikeWidenerShow.com and over 30 podcast platforms. And make sure you check out our merchandise. And don't forget to take the Mike Widener Show with you on any mobile device. Subscribe to the Mike Widener Show on the YouTube channel. Follow the Mike Widener Show on Instagram and Twitter today. And check us out on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and over 30 podcast platforms. And don't forget to check out the merchandise and great books by Mia Molson Zia on Amazon.com/Mia Molson Zia. Also support us on the MikeWidenerShow.com, also on Anchor FM, PayPal, and you can buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com at the Mike Widener Show. And it's healthy and it's cheap, and make sure you do so today. We're here with a terrific gentleman who's the author of the book, The Catching Point Transformation. He's dual-based certified in BC medicine and interventional radiologist here on the Mike Widener Show. And your book, The Catching Point Transformation, a brand new approach to weight loss. We cover some of the material as well, too. And what first inspired you to write the book, The Catching Point Transformation, to come up with the title?
So it became clear over the years as we continued on with our research that there was a critical point beyond which the experience changed, right? We talked early on when we started this show about how the experience is different for those 2 groups of people. And so that point, we saw people cross over that point, right? We saw people who started in a very dark place, who had a very difficult time. But if we're able to get them to that point, their whole lives change, right? And so that point that we call the catching point, that I call the catching point, after that, it's not so much defined by after that is you have success. It's after that you're enjoying it. After that, it's not a struggle for you after anymore. When people are past that point, they smile. They start taking pictures at the gym and posting them on social media and so forth, right? And so there's a huge difference between those 2 groups of people. We talked a lot about how that disconnect leads to fat shaming and leads to false assignment of weakness and lack of willpower and lack of mental fortitude. We talked about that disconnect leading to that. But that disconnect is also the potential solution for so many people who want to lose weight, because they look from where they are now at that lean population and they try to go directly there. And so what we say in the book is you cannot go from that point A to point B like that. It won't work, because the people who are already in the lean camp, they have a distinct advantage that you don't have. For a comparison and an analogy we can make, if we're talking about making money, right? Somebody who's already a millionaire has a much better chance of making money over the next 6 months by investing than you do with no money, right? So they have a huge advantage over you. And what is that advantage? It's not money. In this case, it's the exercise capacity. The people in a lean camp have an exercise capacity that's beyond the catching point. And so they have a huge advantage, just like someone who has $1 million has a better chance of making money than somebody who has no dollars, right? The person with no dollars shows up on day 1 at the stock market. How are they going to do? But that's exactly how we treat weight loss. We look at the people who are, rich, in this case, lean, and we show up on the first day and we say, we're going to be like them. And we start doing their program, but it's not going to work any more than having no dollars is going to lead to $1 million. So you have to get somewhere first, get some money in the bank first, get to that catching point first. And then after that, when you've lost all these negative feelings and you've lost all this anxiety and you've lost all this hunger and you're feeling better, then you're on your way, right? Then you're on your way. So focus on the catching point because once you get to that point, you're a different person and you're home free after that. And that's what the book is about.
Mm-hmm. And of course, you don't have to eat rice cakes all the time, go to boot camp. And of course, just reading about it, they say, stop the rice cakes in the boot camp.
Yes, please stop that. Right. And another analogy that I try to use to illustrate this point is because I'm a doctor. Imagine that I was a cardiac surgeon, right? and I did heart surgeries all day long. And you decided that you also want to do heart surgery, right? So we're making this comparison to here I am, I'm lean, I have a nice smile, and I'm drinking my shake, and you want to be like me, right? So if the analogy is I would like to be a cardiac surgeon as well, then you cannot say, all right, well, on Monday, I'm a cardiac surgeon, right? And just start doing surgeries. Nobody would let you do that. It would go terribly, right? And so back to this example, back to what we're really talking about, was this weight loss. You can't show up on Monday and just do the same thing that they do. On Monday, I'm going to start doing exactly what I see them doing. I'm going to eat rice cakes. I'm going to go to boot camp, and then I'll be like them. You will not be like them. You will not succeed any more than if you try to say, I'm a cardiac surgeon starting Monday. The cardiac surgery route is going to require you to do some prep work. It's going to require you to get the things that surgeon has that you don't have: a medical school degree, training, knowledge of anatomy, things like that. Same deal here. You can get there just like you can become a cardiac surgeon, but you have to get the capacity to do exercise like they have, because that battles this change in your metabolism. That battles the hunger. That battles what we call adiposopathy, which is inflammation and that anxiety and depression and feeling bad. Once you change, and we put a number on it, the number is 220 minutes. I don't want to get too much into the weeds, but that's the number. That's the exercise capacity you have to have if you want this to be fun and easy, like you see it is for other folks.
And that sounds rather interesting as well, too. And of course, weight loss isn't for everybody. It's like, some can do this, some can do that, some can't do this, some can't do that. And maybe some of the common things like with foods, it's like, what are some of the foods that's like really bad for weight loss besides the obvious? And some people are saying rice is like getting to be pretty bad at this point.
So the way to look at that, if we're going to talk about diet, is first and foremost, again, I have to stress, because otherwise I'm just going to end up being like everybody else. I do want to talk about diet, but I have to stress that the key to success is not going to be any particular diet plan, any particular exercise plan. The key to success is staying with the program. There was a paper, a famous paper in the Journal of American Medical Association, that compared all of the popular diets: the Zone diet, Ornish diet, I think the Atkins diet was on there,
And
they
South Beach, keto,
South
and
Beach, all those
Atkins,
diets.
yes.
And only one thing correlated with success. They followed hundreds of people. Most of them failed. Some of them succeeded. What's the magic thing that correlated with those people who succeeded? And I'll tell you what it is. They didn't quit. And so that sounds simple, right? That sounds like a simple thing to understand. Those people who stayed with it are the people who ended up doing well. And so if we focus on what it takes to stay with it, and it's not just gritting my teeth and being tough and overcoming, that's not it. There are other things that we need to do to make sure we stay with it. And if we stay with it, then we'll succeed. Okay, so if we keep that in mind, specifics about diet that are helpful as we go along. All right, one of the things that we say blocks people from staying on it and therefore succeeding is hunger. We've talked about how we did things, or we didn't talk about it. Yeah, we froze the hunger nerve and did things to block hunger. One thing you can do to block hunger with your diet is to focus on your protein intake. Protein has been shown time and time again to combat hunger feelings and also to lead to weight loss, because it actually takes more energy for your body to digest that protein than it takes to digest these other things. And so if we're going to say anything about diet, I'd say that the protein-centered diets that are, the no-carb diet, the keto diet, Mediterranean diet even, they keep us on protein-focused in the center, are the ones that have shown success.
And you also talk about, freezing the nerve as well, too. You also specialize in that. And that's been a big breakthrough in the whole medical practice, diet and everything else, and freezing the nerve. And, a bit about that. And that sounds really interesting.
So we did that. Again, the purpose was really to show that it was some signal coming from the body that had to be blocked, right? Not some increase in mental fortitude. So because in interventional radiology, we used our image guidance to guide needles into the body, we know that we can freeze nerves to stop pain, for example, right? We take cancer patients who have tumors, and we freeze the nerve that's carrying the pain from the tumor. We freeze the nerve that carries pain from arthritis. We freeze the nerve that carries pain from pelvic pain. And so it's clear that we know how to do that. We can guide a needle there just through very small pinhole, no surgery, under image guidance, shut that nerve off and help people with their pain. So I thought to myself, why can't we do the same thing with a different nerve that's not carrying a pain signal, but carrying a hunger signal? And if we shut off that hunger, will people have an easier time? And that's what the trial was about. We did it. It's years old now, the trial. The first 20 patients we did, we showed that at almost every single follow-up point from every single person, 98% of the follow-up points, people reported that their hunger was decreased. Wow. So we were able to decrease their hunger with this procedure. And now, years later, we've married that decrease in hunger with all of the evidence we have about nutrition, all of the evidence we have about exercise, all of the evidence we have about body composition analysis. We've married it with all those things, because in the beginning, we'd say, look, we can shut off your hunger, and what you do with that is up to you. And that's how it started. But now we say, look, we can shut off your hunger, and we're also going to bring you into this program while you're not hungry, give you access to all these top tier evidence-based approaches, and change the outcomes for people. We want to do something. We are doing something different.
Mm-hmm. And sounds really amazing too. Maybe you can just share a story or two of success, with some of your patients as well.
Oh, for sure. We've many of these are out there on the internet now, with patients talking about how previously the perfect patient. Here's a question I get all the time: who's the perfect patient for this, right? Who do you want to do this? And you'll see these stories out there, and I'll tell you one now. The perfect patient is the one who comes and says this. In fact, the very first patient that we did in the world was the perfect patient. She had tried this diet and tried that diet, and everything that came by, every fad that came by, she would try it, and she ended up failing and felt like, just wasn't able to sustain the effort, which is true for hundreds of millions of people. And if you ask that person, is it because you're hungry? Are you hungry? Right? That simple question, you'll really see that about 70% of the people will answer you with yes. All I do is think about food. I think about food when I'm going to bed. I think about food when I wake up to go to the restroom in the middle of the night. I think about food in the morning. I'm so hungry when I go on one of these diets. That's the person who's good for this, right? That's the person we can help. Now, there's the other 30% who are the so-called emotional eaters, right? I'm not really ever hungry. I eat, but I'm not hungry. We can help that person, but not with this procedure.
Mm-hmm. Right. That makes perfect sense too. And where can we find more about your book, and how can people contact you about your services and everything else?
Well, thank you for asking that. I'm working on a new website. It should be up any day now. There's one up now. It's drprologo.com. And my last name is, so it's drprologo.com. And there's one there now with all of the information about the things that we've been talking about and much more. We talked a little bit about pain. That's really what I do in my day job, is manage these complex pain syndromes. It led to this weight loss intervention, but really all of this is rooted in pain management and all the other things that we try to do. We try to treat human beings well. We try to offer them care, help them navigate through the healthcare system, take their comments seriously, and provide a new solution to them for them. So my website is a place to start.
And where can we find the book, The Catching Point Transformation at?
The Catching Point Transformation is available everywhere. Barnes & Noble, Amazon.com, Target, Google Play, Audible, just about everywhere you can buy a book. Kindle, just about everywhere you can buy a book. And you can get there through my website as well. And I would love for people to read it. I wanted, like I said earlier, to write something that people would read. I don't want them to pick it up and look at the program. I wanted them to understand why they've been feeling all along, and give them some validation, and then go forward.
And we are certainly hungry for that book. We'll tell you that.
Go on, Mike.
Oh, yeah. And what's coming up for Dr. David Prologo? We'll find out just 1 minute. You listen to the Mike Wagner Show at the MikeWagnerShow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Also brought to you by our official sponsor of the Mike Widener Show, international warring author Mia Wilson Zia Missing, available on Amazon and paperback and ebook. We'll be back with Dr. David Prologo of The Catching Point Transformation after this time out. We're back with the author of The Catching Point Transformation and dual board certified obesity medicine and interventional radiologist, Dr. David Prologo, here on the Mike Widener Show. Dr. David, we cover a lot of ground and I learned a lot from you, and it's just so amazing. We encourage everybody, to check out Dr. David and what he's got for you. And speaking of that, what else can we expect from you in 2022 and beyond, Dr. David?
Oh my gosh, what a question. So what I'm trying to do in the future, and part of the reason why I'm here is it's become clear to me that your job, by the way, Mike, is the critical important job, right? Because if you have something that's novel, if you have, we talked about the procedure, or we talked about managing complicated pain syndrome, or even just an approach where you take care of the patient and you advocate for the patient. Whatever it is that you might have and you believe that it's good, if you don't have a way to get it out to the world, then you'll never be able to take care of large numbers of people. So going forward, that is my plan, to expand these therapies we have, from pain management to weight loss to diabetes, high blood pressure, those novel therapies that we have for people. I need to get the word out, Mike. I need people to understand that we can manage their cancer pain. We can help them with their weight loss. And we're here for that reason.
And certainly do so. And thank you for that. And please don't overeat and overindulge while listening or watching this show. I'll tell you that. So, and who do you consider biggest influence in your career?
Oh, wow. What a question. Sorry, I didn't have these questions ahead of time. So you really get honest answers, right? So I think the biggest influence in my career was a guy named John Haga. He was, he did the first image guided procedure using CT guidance in the entire world. And he happened to be where I trained at the University Hospitals of Cleveland while I was there. And he was a super innovative guy. He was always thinking outside of the box. He was always pushing back and not accepting the answer that we don't have a treatment for this or a treatment for that, that it's our job to figure it out, that we've been blessed with this ability to see new solutions, and that was our responsibility to take care of people. So I think he probably had the greatest influence.
And certainly amazing as well, too. You can thank him for all the great innovations. And what's the best advice you can give to anybody at this point?
Oh my goodness. The best advice I can give anyone at this point is to keep looking until you find somebody who's going to listen to you. If you're in pain, or you're struggling with weight loss, or even mental health, all of those things are problems with the body. And those are things that in 2022, we have the technology to solve. But what I've seen is that people sort of flail around until they luckily or will find someone, or unluckily will continue on for years out there. And so find somebody who is going to listen to you and understand what you're saying and see it from your perspective, because we're out there and we want to take care of you. So don't give up.
That's certainly a really good idea. I like that. Once again, we're with the author of The Catching Point Transformation, Dr. David Prologo, here on the Mike Widener Show. Dr. David, a very big thank you for your time. I learned a lot from you. You're totally amazing. Looking forward to having you again soon. Make sure you keep us up to date, keep in touch. We'd love to have you back. And once again, tell us about your upcoming projects. What's your website? How do people contact you? Where can people purchase, check out your book, or check out your services?
Well, thank you, Mike. It's been a pleasure talking with you. And the place to start, I think, for everybody is drprologo.com. And we hope the book is out now in all forms. So we'd like people to read it and review it if you can. And everything that we plan to do in the future will be there. And I don't know what else to say. Thanks for having me.
And we're certainly looking forward to having you on, and love to hear your success stories. Once again, Dr. David, very big thank you for your time. You've been absolutely amazing. Looking forward to having you again soon. Keep us up to date. Keep in touch. We'd love to have you back. We wish you all the best. You've got a great future ahead of you.
Thanks, Mike.